I'm Felice Sloan. Follow me at Swanky Maven.
I'm David Leftwich, freelance food writer and editor.
I'm Eric Sandler, editor for Culture Map Houston.
The Full Menu is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Central Market.
You know, David and Felice, I feel like I've been talking a lot about barbecue these past couple of weeks, and that's because Texas Monthly just released their new list of the top 50 barbecue joints in Texas. It comes out every 4 years, and I think that's kind of a good jumping off point for this conversation because it's not the Houston restaurants that maybe people know that made the Texas Monthly list this year.
Oh, the more popular ones, the ones that
like Killen's Barbecue, Feegis Barbecue, Blood Brothers Barbecue, Brett's Barbecue Shop in Katy. They have all moved from the top 50 to the next 50, what they call the honorable mentions.
Yep.
And the Houston area is represented by Truth Barbecue, of course, ranked number 9 in the state of Texas.
Right.
Everybody knows that one. Pinkerton's Barbecue and Corkscrew Barbecue, they've been on the list now 3 times running, 2017, 2021, and now 2025. And then some restaurants that people may not be as familiar with. Rosemeyer Barbecue, a little barbecue trailer in Spring.
Which is amazing.
Bar A Barbecue, way up in Montgomery, kind of west of Conroe. And then Jennings & Co. Barbecue, which is another barbecue trailer, and also in Montgomery. And so, and then, Felice, maybe your favorite new barbecue joint, Brisket and Rice, out in Cypress.
Right, yep, correct. So, do you see a theme, maybe? Do you see a theme with the shifting of where barbecue is going? Because if I look at the list holistically, I think it represents what's going on locally, right?
Well, yeah, I think what the story of this top 50 is from Texas Monthly is innovation and change, right? Expanding the definition of what it means for a barbecue restaurant. And we'll talk about the Houston places, but the one place I kind of want to spotlight for people is Redbird Barbecue in Port Neches, which is outside of Beaumont. So it's like an easy drive if you're a barbecue-obsessed Houstonian and you're trying to figure out some of these newer places that you might not be familiar with. Redbird in Port Neches is kind of the quintessential example of this new school, this latest wave, this innovative wave of barbecue, right? Like, of course, they have brisket and ribs, and they make their own sausage, and they do turkey and beef ribs and all that stuff. But they're also baking dinner rolls. They also have multiple desserts, and the pitmaster Amir Jalani is of Persian heritage, so he honors that with a beef kubedeh sausage that captures those flavors, and then they make fresh pita to go along with the beef sausage. So, and that's in this kind of small town. It's a bit of a drive. Just put on your favorite playlist or crank up all those full menu episodes you haven't had a chance to listen to. Make a road trip out of it, and it's worth the journey, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's two things. I think it goes to show just how much good barbecue there is in Texas and in the area that, they had to expand the honorable mention to 50, and they probably could have done another 50 if they really wanted to. Also, I think it's interesting because I think what you're talking about expands on what the previous top 50 was showing, because you had Blood Brothers, who was doing innovative barbecue, doing some of these innovations. You had some of the, Feegis, where they were focusing as much on sides as they were on the barbecue. So I think, this is just an ongoing evolution of what people are expecting from a good barbecue joint.
Right. And Truth, well-rounded. They do a lot of different things. Truth, if you look at what they're doing, they're constantly adding and changing. They're adding to their menu to stay ahead of the curve, right? And I think that's what you have to do. So their spot on the list in the top is well-deserved because all they're new, they've added the burger, the banh mi, what else they've added?
That cold smoked pork chop is incredible.
Right.
Yeah. And I think restaurants they're having, like the barbecue joints are having to evolve because of this ongoing innovation, but also pricing. Like beef, like brisket is what, $40, it's getting way up there. And now you're seeing some innovation with some cheaper cuts of meat, like pork chops, like
Feegis Barbecue is doing their pork steaks. That's new on their menu. They've always done whole hog as another alternative, right? So they're trying to find some options to get you in at that lower price point. And a lot of, Felice mentioned burgers, right? Truth has a burger. Feegis has a burger. The Pit Room, which is not even an honorable mention, but has that great location out in the Memorial area that opened last year. they have a burger. They have chicken tenders for kids. Or adults like me who like chicken tenders.
Right.
So just expanding the range of kind of what they do to get you in that door, and so you don't have to spend $40 a person on barbecue if you don't want to.
Also, it seems like it's also kind of interesting to see kind of this back and forth conversation between urban barbecue and more rural outlying areas, because, if you probably look at the list 10 years, 8 years ago.
Yeah, 2017 was the rise of big city barbecue.
Yeah, before it was like all these places out, you don't have to take that drive out to Central Texas just to get good barbecue anymore. So it moved into the cities. The cities made these innovations, the more urban, and now that is moving out into, like you mentioned, the place, in Port Neches. It's like it's now moving out, or the number one spot is taking some
Right. The number one on the Texas Monthly list is Burnt Bean Company in Seguin. It's about a 2.5-hour drive, almost all the way to San Antonio from Houston. Felice and I made that drive a couple of weeks ago before the list came out because we had an inkling that was how that was going to go down. Felice, do you want to say something just briefly about Burnt Bean Company for people in Houston who are trying to understand this selection?
So it brings this whole conversation full circle, right? We went Sunday brunch. We had eaten at least an hour in of eating things. We hadn't even eaten traditional barbecue. That's the whole thing. We had brunch at like elevated brunch things with the Tex-Mex, but it was smoked. Like we had this lamb barbacoa with consomme. We had
huevos rancheros with a slice of brisket on top.
Right. Like when we got to the traditional barbecue with the pork chop and everything, I'm like, this is amazing. Like I knew as I'm eating it, I'm like, oh, this is why we're here, right? Because they're taking barbecue to the next level. And so I was interested to see, once we hit the list, I kind of ranked in my mind new places like Rosemeyer Barbecue, right? They're very innovative. They do amazing barbecue, but when you look, they have all these specials every day. Like that's non-traditional barbecue.
Yeah, like one time I went to Rosemeyer and they were doing shrimp and grits that weekend. They make a couple of new flavors of ice cream every month that they rotate through. And it's a trailer on the side of Grand Parkway in Spring. So, I love that it earned a Bib Gourmand in the Michelin Guide. And I love the image of some Michelin inspector, like using their GPS to figure out like where the heck they were going. And then liking it being so impressed by it that they're like, all right, this food trailer gets in the Michelin Guide.
Right, following the line. Follow the line, sir. Like, is that it? Yeah, correct. Some others, you said brisket and rice. They have traditional barbecue. Do I ever get traditional barbecue? I don't. You can get their staple brisket and rice, which is delicious. Or you can now they have a spin on like a fried rice with it. And then they do the barbecue fried rice. It's just the next level, and I'm happy for the restaurants that did make it to the list. There's still great barbecue, but brisket and rice, worth the drive. It's a part of a gas station, right? Like, they're always packed out.
I mentioned Bar A Barbecue in Montgomery just briefly, and I want to kind of revisit that because it's another one. This is like, this is that like 60 to 75 minute drive if you live inside the loop, and really again like. They're doing the burger. They have breakfast on the weekends with kolaches on Saturday. On Sunday he's doing smoked ribeye as a special, and they're obviously they're making all their own sausages. The brisket's excellent, the pork ribs are excellent, and the sides are really good. And the banana pudding is one of the better ones I've had recently. So again, as you're sort of looking at this list and trying to figure out like, is it worth it? Like, yes, absolutely, it is worth the drive. Even interloopers to go, and if you live in the Woodlands or Conroe or Spring, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. Because the list just came out, this is just an insider tip. If people are like, oh, these are great, locally making the drive, bring your patience. Be ready to enjoy the experience of the whole thing, because there will be lines. So you can expect 2 or 3 hour lines. Get there early, enjoy the experience. Usually they're giving you water, beer, juices, and it's just fun to talk barbecue with folks. And when you get into these places, you're going to be excited, and it's going to be worth the wait. But locally, switching gears to more traditional, and some of the people did make the list. I'm going to say Gatlin's Barbecue. When I say Gatlin's, they're not on the list.
They're an honorable mention.
They're an honorable mention,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But also, if you are a Gatlin's fan, Greg Gatlin this season is on Barbecue Brawl that just started. So that's kind of fun to cheer a local guy on. And if you've never been, to see what it's about. Greg does some fun stuff on the menu, right? Like there's always some specials. I love the fried bologna sandwich that's off the menu. It's so good.
Best dirty rice in Houston?
Yeah. Gatlin.
Yep.
I mean, they're just so consistently good. I've never had a bad meat.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I won't mention names. There's a couple there's a place in the top 10 that I've had bad brisket at, but never had bad brisket at Gatlin or any bad food of Gatlin's. Mm-hmm. It's just consistently good. And that's the good thing for you. If you want to wait a while for these top 10 places, top 50, and don't want to wait in the lines, there are plenty of options in Houston that are really good where you just walk in and got a short line or you might have a long line if it's noon or something, but there's
I mean, even Pinkerton's Barbecue in the Heights, it's never that long in my experience, and it always moves quickly. And they're working on opening their new location kind of in that, Upper Kirby, River Oaks kind of area in the old 59 Diner spot. And, I can only imagine, like, with more physical room, like way better parking, that they'll have an opportunity to kind of showcase even some more of what they do. But, I mean, those candy paint ribs, like whatever that sweet glaze is, that's just like, so it's like sweet and smoky and peppery. I mean, those are some of the best pork ribs in Houston.
His beef rib is fabulous, too.
Yeah. One place I want to shout out that's not on the list is Koi Barbecue in North Houston. Yeah. And it's because it's not that it's not of quality. It's that they're not open enough services, right? You have to be open at least once a week to be eligible for the list. And the Vietnamese flavors that Don Nguyen puts into that barbecue, it's just so incredible. And the brisket pho, the beef rib curry, the bo la lot sausage. I mean, everything that they do.
Yeah, and he's always
so
doing,
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always doing some special on top of what he does regularly. Like you mentioned the pho, but he's also doing a brisket bon bo way, which is like, it's another excellent take on Vietnamese. And he travels to Vietnam to get more ideas. I mean, he's doing very innovative stuff, and he's getting pretty regular. I mean, he's got kind of his semi-permanent pop-up on Hardy Street.
If he ever gets to once a week, then they'll be in that mix for the top 50.
Well, another place that's not on the list that I really like is Henderson and Kane, kind of a general store in the 6th Ward off of Washington. They sell good local products, but they're great people. They have great classic barbecue, great breakfast, like probably the best, like brisket, breakfast taco, good brisket sandwich, and just kind of a good feel about it. It's just kind of good, solid, old school barbecue.
One that I'll say that's not on the list that's a tried and true for me is Ray's Barbecue in 3rd Ward, and it is, you're going to get old school traditional barbecue. They're always consistent. You're going to get great barbecue, great sides. And, if you you want to do a little mix, you can get some fish, their oxtails. They have the smoked oxtails, rib tips, and don't miss the peach cobbler. Amazing.
You know what else I like about Ray's?
What?
The Dairy Queen next door, because nothing says barbecue like getting a Blizzard on your way home.
So you skip the peach cobbler and get the Blizzard on the way out?
I can't get away from the Blizzard.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm Felice Sloan. Follow me at Swanky Maven.
I'm David Leftwich, freelance food writer and editor.
I'm Eric Sandler, editor for Culture Map Houston, and you're listening to Houston Matters with Craig Cohen.